My boss's son had no clue how valuable I really was to the company when he fired me. The next day, the CEO showed them both who was really replaceable. I'd been running operations at Meridian Tech for 6 years, not officially. My title was Senior Operations Coordinator, which sounds impressive until you realize it paid $52,000 annually while I did the work of 3 directors. I knew every client account, every supplier contract, every system password. When the servers crashed at 3 a.m., I was the one who fixed them. When shipments went missing, I had the contacts to locate them. When quarterly reports were due, I pulled all-nighters to make the numbers work. Mr. Caldwell, the founder, understood my worth. He'd pull me aside after meetings and say, "This company would collapse without you." Empty words, I thought, until they weren't. Then he had a stroke. His son Devin took over as interim president. Devin was 31, fresh from business school with 0 actual experience. He wore expensive suits and used words like synergy and optimization. He had opinions about everything and knowledge about nothing. First week, he called me into his office. "We need to streamline operations." By streamline, he meant firing the warehouse manager who'd been there 20 years. The same manager who knew every shipping route and had relationships with drivers that saved us thousands. I explained this carefully. Devin waved me off. "We'll hire someone younger, cheaper." Within a month, shipments were delayed constantly. I worked 80-hour weeks trying to patch the holes. Then Devin hired his former roommate Brent as chief operations officer, my new boss. Brent's first move was implementing a new inventory system that cost $200,000 and crashed within 3 days. His second move was blaming me for not training staff properly on software I'd never seen. The breaking point came during our biggest client meeting. I'd spent 2 weeks preparing a presentation for Techline Industries, a $4 million annual account. That morning, Devin decided Brent should present instead. "More executive presence," he explained. Brent fumbled through my slides, couldn't answer basic questions, and misspelled the client's CEO's name twice. I watched from the back as years of relationship building crumbled in 45 minutes. Techline pulled their contract the next day. Devin stormed into my office at 4 p.m. "This is your fault. You should have prepared Brent better. I wasn't told he was presenting until this morning. Excuses. Pack your things. You're done." Just like that. 6 years. Gone. I drove home in shock, called my wife, cried, then got angry. I'd signed NDAs, but nobody had asked me to delete the personal backup drives I kept of client contacts and system documentation. Technically against policy. Also technically the only reason anything functioned. The next morning, my phone rang. "Unknown number. Is this you?" The voice was unmistakable. Mr. Caldwell himself. "Yes, sir. My office. 1 hour." I arrived to find the entire board assembled. Mr. Caldwell sat at the head of the table, looking healthier than I'd seen him in months. Devin and Brent sat in the corner, both pale. "Tell them," Mr. Caldwell said to Devin. Devin's voice shook. 3 more clients pulled contracts this morning. The inventory system corrupted our entire database. And accounting discovered Brent's old company is billing us $50,000 monthly for services never rendered. Mr. Caldwell turned to me. "I've spent 18 hours reviewing what's happened since my stroke. Every disaster traces back to ignoring your warnings." He slid a folder across the table. "President of Operations, $180,000 base plus equity. You report directly to me and the board." I stared at the number. "Triple my old salary. There's one condition," Mr. Caldwell continued. "You have to fix what they broke, starting with deciding their futures." The room went silent. Everyone looked at me. Devin's face had gone gray. In my pocket, my phone buzzed 3 times. Probably more clients jumping ship. The company was bleeding and they wanted me to stop it. Only I knew how much damage there really was. How many secrets I'd kept. How many bodies were buried in systems only I understood. But what they didn't know was what I'd discovered in those backup drives last night. Something that would change everything. I opened my laptop, projected it onto the conference room screen. "Before we discuss anyone's future, you need to see this." The first document appeared. An invoice from Brent's former company, Summit Solutions LLC, dated 2 weeks before Devin hired him, $50,000 for software integration services. The second document showed the same invoice, same date, from Brent's personal email to Devin's personal email. Subject line, "First installment as discussed." "That's taken out of context," Brent stammered. There are 47 more." I clicked through them. Each one showed the kickback scheme. Devin had been funneling company money to Brent's shell company in exchange for a 40% cut. They'd been planning it since before Mr. Caldwell's stroke. The board members leaned forward. One pulled out her phone, already dialing someone. Probably legal. "How did you get these?" Devin's voice cracked. "You stored them on the company server, in a folder labeled Personal Finance 2024, which I had access to because I'm the one who set up the server architecture. The one you never bothered learning." Mr. Caldwell's face had turned red. "How much?" I pulled up a spreadsheet. "Over the past 8 months, $427,000. But that's not all." I clicked to the next screen. Devin also approved 3 suppliers that don't exist. The warehouse addresses are P.O. boxes. The company registration numbers are fake, but the payments are real. Those companies are registered to Brent's wife and his brother-in-law. "Jesus Christ," someone whispered. Combined with the Techline loss, the other client cancellations, and the inventory system disaster, Meridian has lost $6.2 million in 8 months. The company had $8.4 million in liquid assets when Mr. Caldwell had his stroke. We're down to $2.2 million. In 6 more months, we'd have been bankrupt. The silence was absolute. Devin looked like he might vomit. Brent was frantically typing on his phone, probably texting his lawyer. Mr. Caldwell stood up slowly. His voice was quiet, but cold. Security is outside. They'll escort you both out. Don't bother collecting personal items. Everything in your offices is now evidence. Our legal team will be in touch about criminal charges. Dad, please. Devin started. You're not my son right now. You're a thief who tried to destroy what I spent 30 years building. Get out. 2 security guards appeared at the door. They didn't touch Devin or Brent, just stood there waiting. The 2 men gathered their phones and walked out. The whole room watched them leave. When the door closed, Mr. Caldwell sat back down heavily. I'm sorry, he said to me. I should have been more careful about succession planning. You had a stroke. You couldn't predict this. I could have listened to you over the years. Every time you flagged a concern, I should have acted on it. Instead, I let them override you because they had fancy titles and confidence. He looked around the table. We need to talk about real succession planning. But first, can you actually fix this? I'd been up until 4 a.m. working on exactly that question. Yes, but it's going to be painful. Tell us. I pulled up another presentation. This one I'd made last night after discovering the fraud. We have 7 major clients left. 5 of them are threatening to leave because of the service disruptions. We have 43 employees. We need to cut to 31 to survive the next 6 months. The inventory system needs to be scrapped completely, which means $200,000 lost. We need to go back to our old system, which I can rebuild in about 3 weeks if I have 2 good programmers helping me. What about the missing money? One of the board members asked. Can we recover any of it? Legal will pursue that, but we can't count on it. We need to operate as if that money is gone. I clicked to the next slide. Here's the good news. I spent 6 years documenting everything. I have personal relationships with every major client. I know what they actually need, not what Devin thought they needed. If I can meet with each of them personally within the next week, I can probably save 5 of the 7 accounts. What about the other 2? Techline is gone. They're already signing with our competitor. But Peninsula Systems might come back if we offer a 20% discount for 6 months and assign their account to me personally. They've been trying to get rid of the account manager Devin assigned them for 5 months. Mr. Caldwell nodded slowly. What do you need from us? Total authority over operations. No questions, no second guessing. If I say we need to fire someone or hire someone or spend money, you trust my judgment. Because the next 6 months are going to be brutal, and I can't waste time justifying every decision to a committee. The board members looked at each other. Finally, the CFO spoke up. I've reviewed the documentation you compiled. Every warning you gave was correct. Every solution you proposed would have prevented this. I vote we give her complete operational authority. One by one, they agreed. Mr. Caldwell pulled out a contract. I had this drawn up this morning. Everything we discussed, plus one more thing. He wrote something in the margin, initialed it, and slid it across. 5% equity stake in the company. Vesting immediately. You're not just an employee anymore. You're an owner. So when you save this company, you benefit directly. I read the number. 5% of Meridian Tech was worth about $1.8 million on paper. Much less now after the disasters, but still substantial. Why? Because you've earned it. And because I need you to care about this company's future as much as I do. I signed. So did Mr. Caldwell. So did 3 board members as witnesses. Just like that, I went from fired to one of the company's largest stakeholders. When do you start? Mr. Caldwell asked. I never stopped. I pulled out my phone, showing the texts I'd been sending since 6 a.m. I've already set up meetings with 4 clients. 2 of them are today. I've also contacted our old warehouse manager. He's willing to come back if we meet his terms. And I've drafted termination letters for the 12 employees who need to go. 12? I thought you said we needed to cut to 31. We're at 43 minus Devin and Brent. That's 41. We need to cut 10 for budget reasons. But there are 2 more who need to go for different reasons. Who? Brent's assistant and the new IT manager. Brent's assistant knew about the fraud. I found emails where she helped him create the fake invoices. And the IT manager deliberately sabotaged the old system to justify buying the new one. He got a $15,000 kickback from the software company. Mr. Caldwell closed his eyes. How deep does this go? Those are the only ones who knew about the criminal activity. The rest are just people who weren't performing. Dead weight we've been carrying because nobody wanted to make hard decisions. Fire them all today, the CFO said. We can't have anyone who participated in fraud anywhere near this company. I nodded. I'll need HR present for the terminations, and security standing by in case anyone gets hostile. Done. Mr. Caldwell stood up. Everyone, let's give her space to work. She has a company to save. The board filed out. Mr. Caldwell paused at the door. Thank you for not walking away, for still caring enough to fight for this place. Meridian is my company too, I said. Now officially. He smiled, and for the first time in months it reached his eyes. Yes, it is. The next 6 hours were a blur. I met with HR and legal, drafted termination documents, and coordinated with security. At 2:09 p.m., we called in the first person. Brent's assistant, Nicole, walked into the conference room looking confused. Have a seat, I said. Why is security here? She asked nervously. Because you're being terminated for cause. Specifically for helping Brent Richardson commit fraud against this company. Her face went white. I didn't. You created 23 fake invoices using company letterhead. You processed payments to shell companies. And you kept a personal record of every transaction, probably as insurance. I slid a folder across the table. These are your own emails, printed from your work account. In this one, you tell Brent you need a bigger cut because you're taking on all the risk. How much did he pay you? She stared at the documents. I want a lawyer. That's your right. But you're fired regardless. Security will escort you out. You have 10 minutes to clean out your desk under supervision. Any company property stays here, including your phone and laptop. She left in tears. I felt nothing. She'd helped steal from people who trusted her. The IT manager was next. When I showed him the communications between him and the software vendor, he didn't even try to deny it. Just slumped in his chair and said, I needed the money. My wife was sick. Your wife divorced you 14 months ago. I checked. The money went to pay off gambling debts. I'd found his loan documents in the same backup drive. You sabotaged systems that kept this company running because you needed $15,000. Do you know how many people almost lost their jobs because of what you did? He looked down. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix it. Get out. The rest of the firings were more straightforward. People who'd been underperforming for months, who'd used Devin's chaos as cover to stop trying. One guy had been showing up 3 hours late every day because he knew nobody was paying attention anymore. Another woman had billed 160 hours of overtime in 1 month, but witnesses confirmed she'd left at 5 p.m. every single day. By 6 p.m., we were down to 31 employees. The people who remained were the ones who'd actually been working through all the chaos. The ones who'd been quietly picking up the slack while everything fell apart around them. I called an all-hands meeting at 6:30 p.m. Everyone gathered in the main conference room looking nervous. They'd watched 12 people get fired in one afternoon. They thought they might be next. I know today was hard, I started. You watched a lot of people lose their jobs. You're probably scared you're next. You're not. I looked around the room. Everyone here is someone who kept working when leadership failed you, who stayed late when you didn't have to, who fixed problems you weren't paid enough to fix. You're the reason Meridian still exists. I saw some people relax slightly, but I'm not going to lie to you. The next 6 months are going to be brutal. We lost major clients. We lost money. We have to rebuild almost everything from the ground up. I need every single person in this room to work harder than you ever have. Longer hours, more stress, more responsibility. I paused. Here's what you get in return. First, honesty. I won't lie to you about how bad things are. Second, fair compensation. I'm increasing everyone's salary by 10% effective immediately, and I'm implementing a profit-sharing program that starts next quarter. Third, respect. Your opinions matter. Your expertise matters. When you tell me something isn't working, I'll listen. Someone raised their hand. It was Patricia from accounting, who'd been with the company almost as long as I had. What happens if we can't turn this around? If clients keep leaving, then we go down fighting, knowing we did everything we could. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to surprise everyone, including ourselves, because we have something our competitors don't. What's that? We give a damn. I pulled up a slide showing our old client satisfaction scores from before Devin took over. We used to be the best in the industry. We can be that again, but only if everyone in this room commits to it. They committed. Over the next week, I met with every remaining client personally. I brought case files showing every interaction we'd had over the years, every time I'd gone above and beyond to solve their problems, every promise I'd kept when it would have been easier not to. Peninsula Systems was the hardest meeting. Their CEO, Victoria Chen, had me wait in the lobby for 45 minutes before agreeing to see me. I sat there reviewing my notes, preparing for battle. When I finally got into her office, she didn't offer me a seat. Give me one reason why I shouldn't switch to your competitor. One reason, because you already tried them 3 years ago and came back to us. Remember? I pulled out a file. July 2022. You switched to Nexus Solutions because they offered lower prices. Within 2 months, they'd missed 4 shipments, lost a critical order, and their support line kept transferring you to different people who didn't know your account. When you called me at 11:04 p.m. on a Saturday because you had a Monday morning deadline and Nexus had disappeared, I personally drove to the warehouse, located your order, and delivered it to your facility at 3 a.m. Her expression softened slightly. I remember. Devin and Brent didn't know those stories. They didn't know that relationships matter in this business. They thought logistics was just moving boxes from point A to point B. I opened another file. This is a proposal for your account going forward. Same services you had before, but I'm adding a dedicated account manager who reports directly to me. You'll have my personal cell phone number. And we're offering a 20% discount for 6 months because I know the last 3 months have been a nightmare for you. Why should I trust that things will actually improve? Because Devin and Brent are gone. Because I'm in charge now. And because I've never broken a promise to you in 5 years. I met her eyes. You know me. You know what I'm capable of. The question isn't whether I can deliver. It's whether you're willing to give me one more chance to prove it. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she picked up the phone. Cancel the Nexus onboarding, she told her assistant. She hung up and looked at me. 6 months. One screw up, and we're done. You won't regret this. I better not. 3 more clients agreed to stay on similar terms. By the end of the week, we'd stabilized. We weren't growing, but we weren't dying either. That was enough for now. Then I turned to fixing our internal systems. The inventory software Brent had purchased was complete garbage. Proprietary code, no documentation, and a user interface designed by someone who'd never actually worked in a warehouse. Our old system had been clunky but functional. I'd built it myself 7 years ago using open source tools and custom modifications. I hired 2 programmers I'd worked with at my previous job. Both agreed to come on as contractors for 60 days. We locked ourselves in a conference room with 6 monitors, 5,000 lines of old code, and enough coffee to kill a small elephant. This is insane, one of them said after the first day. You built all this yourself? I didn't have a choice. Mr. Caldwell gave me a budget of $3,000 in 3 weeks. I had to make it work. It's actually really elegant. Whoever coded this understood the business logic inside and out. That's because I was also doing all the warehouse management at the time. I knew exactly what the system needed to track. We worked 16-hour days. My wife brought me dinner every night because I refused to leave until we hit daily milestones. By day 12, we had basic functionality restored. By day 18, we had everything except the advanced reporting features. By day 21, we had a system that was actually better than the original. I demonstrated it to the warehouse staff. Within 30 minutes, they were navigating it faster than they'd ever used Brent's expensive disaster. This is what we needed, the interim warehouse manager said. Something that actually works how we work. The old warehouse manager, Douglas, came back on day 23. He walked through the warehouse, talking to drivers, checking shipment logs, and examining our routing software. Then he came to find me in my office. Place is a mess, he said bluntly. I know. That's why I need you. They let me go because I was too expensive. They were idiots. Your salary is $95,000, and you're worth every penny of it. Plus, I'm giving you a staff of 4 instead of 2. You'll have the resources to actually do the job right. He considered this. Who do I report to? Me and only me. No more layers of management who don't understand logistics. Can I fire the kid they hired to replace me? Already did, 2 weeks ago. He smiled. Then I'll start Monday. With Douglas back, shipping stabilized. On-time delivery went from 61% to 94% in 3 weeks. Clients noticed. I started getting thank you emails instead of complaint calls, but we still had the money problem. We'd stopped the bleeding, but we were running on fumes. The CFO pulled me into his office 6 weeks into my new role. We need to talk about cash flow. I'd been dreading this conversation. How bad? We have about 8 weeks of operational budget left. After that, we start missing payroll. What about the legal action against Devin and Brent? It's going to take months to see any recovery. And honestly, we might never see that money. Brent transferred most of it offshore. Devin spent his cut on cars and a down payment on a house. Can we get a loan? Not with our current financial statements. No bank will touch us. I stared at the numbers on his screen. We'd worked so hard to stabilize operations, and it might not matter. We could still go under simply because we ran out of cash. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through scenarios. We could try to attract new investors, but that would mean giving up equity and control. We could pursue more aggressive cost cutting, but we'd already trimmed to the bone. We could sell assets, but we didn't have much worth selling. At 3 a.m., my phone rang. It was Victoria Chen from Peninsula Systems. I hope I didn't wake you, she said. I was already awake. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I've been thinking. You saved my contract 6 weeks ago when you didn't have to. You gave me a discount when you probably couldn't afford it. And service has been flawless since. That's what I promised. I have a proposal. Peninsula is expanding into 3 new distribution centers next year. We need a logistics partner we can trust. I'm prepared to sign a 3-year contract worth $2.4 million annually, but I need it to be with you, personally, not just Meridian. I sat up in bed. $2.4 million annually, with a $600,000 upfront payment to secure our slot in your scheduling. That's standard for large contracts, right? It absolutely was not standard. She was giving us a lifeline disguised as a business deal. Victoria, you don't have to. I'm not doing charity. I'm investing in a partner I trust. Do we have a deal? Yes. God, yes, thank you. Don't thank me. Just keep delivering the way you have been. I'll have contracts drawn up tomorrow. I called the CFO at 3:15 a.m. He answered on the first ring, probably having his own sleepless night. I told him about Victoria's offer. That gives us 18 months of breathing room, he said. Maybe more if we can land similar contracts with other clients. I have an idea about that. The next morning, I called a meeting with our 5 largest remaining clients. I pitched them the same concept. Long-term contracts in exchange for upfront payments and guaranteed capacity. 3 of them agreed immediately. 1 said maybe. 1 said no, but increased their monthly order volume by 40% instead. Within 2 weeks, we had $1.8 million in upfront contract payments. The company was solvent again. Mr. Caldwell called me into his office. He looked years younger than he had 8 weeks ago. You did it. I honestly didn't think it was possible. It's not done yet. We're stable, but we're not thriving. We need to grow. What do you have in mind? I pulled out a business plan I'd been working on. We've been playing defense. Time to play offense. We have the best on-time delivery rate in the industry right now. We should be advertising that. We have capacity for 15 more medium-sized clients. We should be actively recruiting them. And we have expertise that other companies need. We should be offering consulting services. Consulting? Businesses pay $500 an hour for operations consultants who don't know half of what we know. We could offer logistics optimization reviews, system implementation, efficiency audits. It's additional revenue with minimal overhead. He read through my plan. This is aggressive. We don't have a choice. We either grow or we slowly shrink. There's no standing still in this industry. What do you need? A marketing budget, a sales team of 2 people, and permission to attend the National Logistics Conference in Dallas next month. Done! Take Patricia from accounting with you. She needs to see what you're building. The conference was a revelation. I hadn't been to an industry event in 6 years. Devin had always said it was a waste of money, but it was where deals got made. I spent 3 days in nonstop meetings, pitching our services, demonstrating our systems, and reconnecting with old contacts who'd heard about our troubles and wanted to help. I came back with 12 solid leads and an award for Best Operations Turnaround from a logistics industry magazine that had been following our story. The award came with a $10,000 prize and a feature article. Within a week of publication, we had 34 new inquiries. We hired carefully, 6 new employees over 2 months, people who fit our culture of competence and urgency. By month 4 of my tenure as president of operations, we were profitable again. By month 6, we'd replaced all the lost revenue from the clients who'd left. Then Devin's trial started. The prosecutor had built a solid case using the evidence I'd provided: fraud, embezzlement, theft. Brent took a plea deal and agreed to testify against Devin in exchange for a reduced sentence. He got 3 years. Devin went to trial. I attended every day, sat in the gallery, and watched him try to defend himself. His lawyers argued he'd been led astray by Brent, that he was naive and inexperienced, that he'd never meant to hurt the company his father built. The prosecutor shredded that defense by calling me as a witness. Did the defendant receive warnings about his decisions? The prosecutor asked. Constantly. I documented every warning in writing. Every time I told him a decision would cause problems, I sent a follow-up email summarizing the conversation. Did he act on any of these warnings? No. He ignored all of them. Did he demonstrate any remorse when the company began failing? No. He blamed everyone except himself. He blamed me for not training people. He blamed clients for being unreasonable. He blamed his father for not leaving better systems in place. Did he take any responsibility? Never. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Devin got 8 years. Mr. Caldwell didn't attend the sentencing. I can't watch that, he told me. He's still my son, even if he tried to destroy everything I built. I understand. Do you? Because I'm not sure I do. I raised him to value hard work and integrity. I don't know where it went wrong. You can't blame yourself. You gave him every advantage. He chose to abuse it. Mr. Caldwell looked old again in that moment. I'm stepping down, officially. I'm staying on the board, but I want you to be CEO. What? You've earned it. You saved this company. You built it back better than it was before. And more importantly, the employees trust you. The clients trust you. The board trusts you. He smiled sadly. I should have made you my successor years ago instead of assuming it had to be family. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Take the company into the next phase. Make it something even better than what I started. I thought about everything that had happened. Being fired 26 weeks ago. The sleepless nights, the impossible meetings, the weight of knowing that 31 families depended on my decisions, the satisfaction of seeing it work, of proving I could do it. Yes, I said, I'll do it. The announcement was made 3 days later. I became CEO of Meridian Tech at 38 years old. Some people in the industry were surprised. Most weren't. They'd been watching our turnaround. They'd seen what happened when you put the right person in charge. My first act as CEO was implementing a new policy. Every employee, from warehouse staff to senior management, would receive profit sharing based on company performance. Every employee would have a path to equity ownership if they stayed 5 years. Every employee would have protected whistleblower rights and a direct line to report concerns to me or the board without retaliation. You're giving away a lot, the CFO warned. I'm investing in loyalty, in people who will stay because they're owners, not just employees. In a culture where people speak up instead of staying silent when they see problems. What about when you need to fire someone? Then I'll fire them. But it won't be because they questioned authority or pointed out mistakes. It'll be because they're not performing or they're breaking the rules everyone else has to follow. 1 year after taking over as CEO, Meridian Tech had grown 40%. We'd opened a second warehouse. We'd hired 23 more employees. We'd landed 6 major new clients and started a consulting division that brought in $800,000 in its first year. I attended industry conferences as a keynote speaker, telling the story of our turnaround. Business schools started using us as a case study in crisis management. I got speaking invitations I had to turn down because I was too busy actually running the company. My salary was now $280,000 plus substantial bonuses. My equity stake had grown to 8% after Mr. Caldwell gifted me another 3% in recognition of the turnaround. I was, on paper, worth about $6.4 million. But more importantly, I'd built something I was proud of. 2 years after taking over, I ran into Brent at a coffee shop. He was out on parole, wearing a cheap suit and carrying a stack of resumes. He saw me and froze. Congratulations, he said stiffly. I heard about your success. Thanks. I wanted to say I'm sorry for what we did. It was wrong. I studied him. He looked tired, defeated. 5 years younger than me, but looking a decade older. Did you really need the money? Or was it just greed? He was quiet for a moment. Greed, mostly. Devin and I thought we were smarter than everyone else, that we could skim a little and nobody would notice. Then it became more than a little. By the time I realized how bad it was, I was in too deep to stop. You could have come to me. I would have helped you find a way out. I know. But my ego wouldn't let me. You were supposed to be below me. I couldn't admit you were better at everything. What are you doing now? Trying to find work. Nobody wants to hire a guy with a felony conviction for fraud. I've applied to 86 jobs in 3 months. 2 interviews, no offers. I pulled out a business card. Call this number. It's a trucking company in Nevada. Owner is a friend of mine. He gives second chances to people who've served their time. Tell him I sent you. Brent stared at the card. Why would you help me? Because everyone deserves a second chance. And because you being homeless and desperate doesn't undo what you did. But you working an honest job and rebuilding your life, that's something. He took the card. Thank you. I don't deserve this. You're right. You don't. But I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because it's who I want to be. I never heard from him again. I checked with my friend in Nevada 6 months later. Brent had gotten the job, shown up on time every day, and was slowly working his way up. Good enough. Devin I never saw again. Last I heard, he was serving his sentence in a minimum security facility and had started an MBA program through correspondence courses. His lawyer sent a letter asking if I'd be willing to write a character reference for his parole hearing. I declined. 3 years after taking over, Mr. Caldwell passed away in his sleep. Heart attack at 68 years old. The funeral was attended by over 300 people. Clients, employees, competitors, suppliers, everyone whose lives he'd touched in 30 years of business. I gave the eulogy, talked about his vision and his integrity, about how he'd built something from nothing, about how he'd trusted me when he had every reason not to, about how his greatest legacy wasn't the company itself, but the culture he'd created. One where competence mattered more than connections, where hard work was rewarded, where people took care of each other. Mr. Caldwell once told me the company would collapse without me. I said. He was wrong. The company would have survived, but it wouldn't have been the same, because he built something bigger than any one person. He built a community, and that's what we're going to honor by continuing his work. In his will, he left his remaining equity in the company to be divided among employees employees who'd been there more than 5 years. 17 people, including me, received shares. It was his final act of generosity, making sure the people who'd built his dream got to share in its success. 4 years after taking over as CEO, Meridian Tech was acquired by a national logistics firm for $94 million. I could have fought the acquisition, but the offer was too good. It would make 23 employees millionaires. 43 others would receive six-figure payouts. Everyone would have job security and better benefits. My 8% stake was worth $752 million after taxes. I was 42 years old and financially set for life, but I negotiated something else into the deal. I would stay on as president of the Meridian division for 5 years with full operational control. I wouldn't report to anyone except the parent company's CEO, and I could veto any decision that compromised our culture or our service standards. They agreed, because they weren't buying our warehouse or our trucks. They were buying our reputation, our relationships, our way of doing business, and they were smart enough to know that came from the people, not the assets. Now, 5 years after being fired by Mr. Caldwell's son, I'm running a $150 million division of a billion-dollar company. I have 127 employees. I serve 83 major clients across 6 states, and I still know most employees by name, still meet with clients personally, still answer my phone at midnight when something goes wrong. People ask me if I ever think about that day Devin fired me, if I'm angry about the 6 years I spent being underpaid and undervalued. The honest answer is no, because that experience taught me exactly what kind of leader I didn't want to be. It showed me the difference between authority and respect, between a title and actual competence. And it proved something I'd always suspected but never quite believed, that doing the work, really doing it, always matters. That relationships built on trust can survive anything. That people remember who showed up for them when things were hard. Devin got out of prison last year. I heard he moved to another state and changed his name. Started over completely. Part of me hopes he learned something from the whole disaster. Part of me doesn't care either way. Because here's what I learned. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's success. It's building something better. It's proving that the people who doubted you were wrong not because you told them, but because you showed them. That presentation I never got to finish, the one Brent fumbled, I still have it. Sometimes I look through it and remember how much I wanted to prove my worth back then. How desperately I needed someone to see what I was capable of. I don't need that anymore. I know what I'm capable of. So do the 127 people who work for me. So do the clients who trust us with millions of dollars of business. So does everyone who said a fired coordinator couldn't save a failing company and turn it into an industry leader. The backup drives that contained all the evidence, I keep them in a safe in my office. Not because I need them anymore, but because they remind me of something important. The truth has weight. Documentation matters, preparation saves lives, and sometimes the person everyone underestimates is the one who ends up changing everything. My boss's son thought he could fire me and erase 6 years of knowledge. He was wrong, because you can fire a person, but you can't fire their competence. You can take away their title, but you can't take away what they know. You can dismiss their warnings, but you can't escape the consequences of ignoring them. I built this company twice, once in the shadows, keeping everything running while others took credit, and once in the light, showing everyone exactly what I'd been doing all along. And that's why, when people ask me what I learned from being fired, I tell them this. Never confuse someone's position with their value. Never assume the person at the top knows more than the person doing the work. And never ever underestimate someone who's been quietly holding everything together while you weren't paying attention. Because sooner or later, everyone finds out who's really irreplaceable. Devin learned that lesson the hard way. I just wish it hadn't taken his father's company nearly dying for him to understand it. But that's not my problem anymore. I've got a division to run, clients to serve, and people to lead. And unlike some leaders, I actually know how to do the job.